In an industry stuffed with marketing bullshit, empty promises, and shiny suited liars, one woman's had enough. She knows what it's like to have the wrong clients, no money, and no time for fun. But she also knows how to fix it. And on the Business for Superheroes show, she promises to tell the down and dirty truth about business, sales, and running away with the circus. Here's your host, Vicky Fraser.
Hello and welcome to the Business for Superheroes show. I'm Vicky Fraser and today I am here with John Cleary, who is a branding photographer and a general all-round top bloke, and he takes all of my photographs for me because he's ace. So John, hi, welcome to the podcast. Thank you so much for being here.
Hello. Hello.
Hello. Tell us, let's just start with, tell us what you do and who you work with.
Okay, well, first of all, thanks for having me on the podcast. I work with mainly female entrepreneurs to help them create their own kind of personal stock library of images for their marketing.
Cool. Good.
That's the short version.
And we'll do the long version in a minute.
Okay.
Cool. That's ace. And I should say now, yeah, you do all of my photos, don't you? And it's just really good fun.
I do, yeah, and it's great fun. I really enjoy what I do because it's just good fun, and we create lots of really great images for people.
Yeah, and the title of this podcast is "How to Learn Not to Hate Your Photographs," which I think is fairly apt because this is okay. This is the big problem that I had because, you know, I hate photographs of myself, or I used to. So that kind of leads me to my first question, which is, John, what's the biggest complaint that people, especially women, have about photographs of themselves? Or generally, exactly. Photographic process?
Well, I guess that's a question kind of you can answer almost as well as I can, but most of my clients, and it's funny actually that I've ended up on the podcast because it was actually you mentioning that you hate having your photograph taken on the podcast that's actually led to this.
That's so meta.
So most of my clients really don't like having the photo taken, and whether it's just my clients or whether it's people generally, I don't know, but that's true. And I have to say that I've had clients arrive with me and actually burst into tears with fear about what was about to happen. Yeah, and that's absolutely true. But they've always gone away quite happy, which is good. Generally, they say that they're not photogenic, but I don't believe that. I think it's just a story that they tell themselves because they've not been photographed well in the past. And there is something about being photographed, I think, that is just slightly uncomfortable. I don't know why. I feel it too. So, you know what? It's one of those things.
Is there a tribe somewhere in the world that thinks that taking a photograph steals a piece of your soul? I think maybe deep down we all believe that that's what's going to happen.
Well, maybe that's what happens. Yeah. I've probably got lots of bits of soul in my camera bag.
Oh, that's. I'm now scribbling down. That's a great idea for email. Hang on. Souls in camera bags. I'm actually writing that down right now. Anyway, as we were. So yes.
So yeah. So and I don't know what it is. It's I don't know whether it is just a woman thing or whether it's a man thing as well. I feel it a bit, but I think it is generally a women thing, and it's a. I don't know why. Women and girls they just do have this image thing, don't they? And I think it's partially the media and retouching and everything else that goes on, that we all seem to think we've got to be perfect, which we don't. We just have to be us.
Yeah, that's such great. I love that. We think we have to be perfect, but we don't. We just have to be us. That's so great, and it's true. Okay, so what happens? What do you find happens after you've worked with people? Like, you know, I mean, we could tell my story, but everybody knows my story. That's boring. How about that woman who burst into tears when she arrived? I mean, what happened with her? I'd love to hear about that.
Well, she just hates having a photograph taken. Always did hate having a photograph taken. I still don't think she's that comfortable with it now, and I do know her. I'm still in touch with her, but she was genuinely just terrified of the process. And actually it ended up being quite a fun shoot. It was quite strange. We ended up playing photographs, playing recordings of donkey spraying and all sorts of things, just to make her laugh and to help her chill out. And we got some really nice photos of her. In fact, I've done some more photos of her since, which are even better. And yeah, it's really about putting people at their ease. That's the real thing for me. I find that people realize once they've been photographed by me that it's not as scary as they've built it up to be. So that's the initial thing that happens with them. And then they put their images up on LinkedIn or Facebook or what have you, and get amazing reactions from their friends, which is always brilliant to see. It still surprises me. It shouldn't do, but it does. They just get hundreds and hundreds of likes, which is fabulous. And then I've had feedback from clients that it's a turning point for their business, and they feel like they'd arrived, and it gave them a confidence that they didn't have before to kind of put themselves out there, as it were. There's a lady that I know who did hers, and she said that she felt able to go out and do networking and things because she's got good photos. Another one, and I'm not, this isn't one of my lines, but maybe it should be. But I had one client who was on a dating website as well, and she put the photos up on a dating website, and having had nothing for weeks, suddenly inundated by potential suitors all wanting to meet her.
That's amazing. Well, no, that's really good though, because dating and marketing are pretty much the same thing. So I think that's very relevant to what you do.
Yeah.
Cool. Okay, so I just want to clarify what you're doing for people as well, because one of the things that you said earlier, that thing about not being perfect, just being you, I think that's really important, because you're not trying to make people into different people, are you? What is it that you're really what is it you're aiming for with these photos?
Well, I guess I'm trying to get a photo that looks like them. What I'm aiming for is for them to look the very best version of themselves. And clients often joke with me about, taking 2 stone off or 10 years. And deep down, I don't think that's what they want in the photographs. They probably want it in real life, but they just want to be represented in an authentic way, looking their absolute best. And to do that requires lots of things to come together in a split second, talking from a photographer's perspective. And as a photographer, doing most of those things is fairly easy. But the key thing and the critical thing is actually enabling them to be themselves. And by being themselves, I mean not nervous and not worried about what's actually happening and the fact that they've got a camera in front of them.
Yeah.
Because we see, when we look at a photo, you can tell whether somebody's feeling relaxed or whether they're not feeling relaxed. And if they're not feeling relaxed, then it doesn't kind of draw you in.
Yeah. So you mentioned it, that kind of achieving that, best version of yourself is a whole bunch of stuff coming together from a photographer's point of view. I'm really interested in that. What are you pulling together? What are all those different aspects?
Oh God, there's loads of things.
Just a few.
So the background is something that needs to be sorted out. As you can see, we're doing this on video, and I've got the most horrendous wallpaper in the background.
It's quite busy.
So yeah, having a good background, having good lighting is another thing. There's makeup, there's hair, there's clothes, there's posing, there's just a load of things.
Okay.
They're all things that, unless you kind of do it all the time, it's not sort of thing that you maybe think about.
Yeah. Okay, cool. We'll come back to that because I'm going to ask you for some makeup and clothing and whatnot tips in a bit.
Okay.
Of people getting photographs done. Okay, so let's go on to this is one of my funnest questions. What are the crappiest photos you see? No, I'm just kidding. What are the biggest problems that you see with most people's photos on like LinkedIn and Facebook and other places where people have their personal branding?
Okay. How long's the podcast?
You've got about another 15 minutes.
Okay. Okay, so the thing that I would say is that photos don't need to be taken by a professional. That's the first and most important thing. I'm not saying that, but first of all, you do actually need to have a photo. That's really important. But it needs to be a good photo. So preferably not a holiday photo of you on the balcony with the sea in the background, or at a dinner dance with a glass of wine in your hand, or you and your partner, but you've actually cropped the photo so that there's only you in it, and things like that. But yeah, so well, I mean, there's lots of things, but it's the thing is, as long as everybody's got bad photos, it's really good for the people who've got good photos because they stand out.
Yeah, for the right reasons.
Yes, exactly.
And what damage can these poor photos do to people's images and their business? I mean, apart from like just not standing out because everybody's got a crap photo.
Okay, well, at the end of the day, and I know you'll agree with me on this, people buy people. Mm-hmm. It doesn't matter whether you're dealing with an organization or on a one-to-one basis, people buy people. So your business profile is your shop window. Having a great photo, people will stop and look in the shop window to extend the metaphor. But if you've got a mediocre photo or a bad photo, people will pass you by. And to be honest, I don't think anybody really knows what damage is done, because the damage a lot of the time is invisible, because you never know who's passed you by or not picked up the phone or clicked that, contact me button, because you didn't stand out.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I think that's probably, and you can kind of go and talk about the people with the glasses of wine and the blah, and the drunken face. That's going to do some obvious damage. Is that really the best photo for your business that you could come up with? But yeah, you're right about people just not being noticed, which is a real shame. Because a lot of these people are going to be great and they'll have great businesses.
Yeah, they will, but it's for me. And I would say this because I'm a photographer, but for me, your photo is the first thing that you've got to have right. And your business profile photo isn't going to be the thing that wins you the business. What wins the business is the conversation that you have and your product and everything else. But if people don't notice you in the first place, then it all counts for naught.
Yeah, that's a really good point, and it's kind of it's just reinforcing all of the things I always tell people. So I'm very glad. I'm always glad when people come on and say the stuff that I say, because it's like, yes, see, I'm not the only one. Okay, so what are some of that? We've covered this a little bit, but what are some of the benefits of having really great professional photos taken for you and your business?
Okay, well, apart from them looking professional and hopefully standing out for all the right reasons, the biggest thing for me, and this is it's kind of my big thing is actually kind of having photos taken by somebody that you trust and is professional allows you to relax. And I feel like I'm starting to repeat myself already now, but being relaxed and knowing that you're going to look good is half the battle. In fact, it's most of the battle, to be honest. I've seen so many photos where technically they were great, but the person in the photo looks really uncomfortable. Consciously or unconsciously, that's not going to help attract your clients. Do you know what I mean? So it's the rest of it's down to the photographer knowing the stuff, putting it in the right light, posing the right way, etc. But that all helps. But the biggest benefit really is kind of being put at your ease and feeling relaxed.
Yeah, that's a really good point. You mentioned professional a couple of times, and I just wanted to kind of clarify, because I know that a lot of people will be thinking exactly what I was always thinking, which is, but I hate corporate boring suits, and isn't that what business photography is? It's kind of standing there in a suit and looking boring, and that's not at all what you do, is it?
Well, no, it's not. They don't need to be boring, and I guess what I do isn't really corporate photography as such. For me, it's more about drawing out the personality of the person that I'm photographing and capturing not just what they look like, but what they are like, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
You need to get a sense of the person, the essence of who's in front of the camera. It's really easy to take a picture of someone and have a good likeness of them, but actually capturing something about them and what they're really like is key to photographing them well.
Yeah.
And it doesn't have to be dull and corporate and stuff. I mean, you'll know. I mean, your photographs, we've got some of you kind of juggling balls, so it kind of lines up with your running away to the circus stuff. And I've had photographs with somebody who works with horses, so we've done photos of them actually working on the horse. So it's drawing in what you do or what you're interested in is quite important to, I think, to having good photos.
Yeah, for sure. I was just gonna. I had great fun on our shoot because, like you said, we were doing juggling, and I was doing handstands, although that didn't work quite so well because we didn't really have enough room. But the shoot that we did last year, we did in the circus studio, didn't we? So we did like hoop and all sorts of really great stuff. So I was going to ask, what else? I mean, you mentioned the horses, but what other stuff have you got people doing, or have you brought into people's photos that's worked really well?
That's a good question. I mean, it's down to each individual really, and I always try to, before I do a shoot, I always try to find out about the person themselves and what they're interested in and what they do and what they do for clients and what makes them different, and draw that into the shoot in some way. And I'm just trying to think off the top of my head what examples I can come up with, and my mind's gone blank. So
I didn't put that in my question. I was just going to think, you've got some really great photos on your website as well, and you've got some really good before and afters and stuff. So we'll give people the URL at the end.
Okay.
Okay, so I was going to ask you just for a few tips about if somebody's going for a photo shoot. What would you say to them about makeup, about clothing, about settings and backgrounds and props? So just a few things that people can kind of be thinking about.
Okay, so obviously I'm not a makeup artist, and so in terms of the practical stuff, I can't tell you. You should be wearing false eyelashes or rouge here and there.
Always should be wearing false eyelashes.
Indeed. So what I would say though is go for natural. Don't go OTT on makeup, and unless you're really confident with doing makeup, I'd strongly recommend that you get a professional makeup artist who's used to doing photography work to come and do your makeup for you, because that's it's a big part of looking and feeling good, especially for women. If you've had your makeup done, it helps with the confidence and knowing that you're going to look your absolute best.
It does, and I can stand here and say that with absolute truth that it does, because I always get Rowena to come and do my makeup when you photograph me, and Rowena is going to come on the podcast at some point soon, so she'll be able to kind of talk all about that. Excellent.
Well, she'll be able to give you some more practical tips about makeup, and she is a fabulous makeup artist. I love working with Rowena.
Yes.
So what you put on day to day is different than what you'd put on for photo shoots, and it's things like making sure that you're not shiny, but also that you've got texture to your skin. It's not so thick that you can't.
It's not like weird magazine airbrushing kind of thing.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's makeup. Clothing. I would say, again, I'm going to sound like a stuck record now. Wear things that you're comfortable in that make you feel good, because if you feel good, you'll look good. And how you feel in your head has a tendency to shine out of your face. If you want specifics on clothing, I would say less pattern, the better. You're meant to be the star of the photo, not your top. But sometimes, there's a reason why you might want to break that kind of loose rule. Sometimes if you want something for LinkedIn, an eye-catching color can help you stand out. But you might want something a bit more muted for use on your website. But the important thing is that whatever you wear suits your personality. And a really good tip is, what would you want to wear to meet your perfect potential client? That's
a really good piece of advice. Yeah.
Yeah. And it might mean you go out and spend a fortune on wardrobe, but it's that's what you're trying to do. All your photos are meant to be attracting your perfect client. So go out and buy what you'd wear if you're going to meet them, whoever that person is.
And of course, you don't just wear it for the photo shoot, you get to wear it for actually going out to meet your perfect clients.
Indeed. So settings is very much dependent on the client business, and props and stuff. If I'm working with a lifestyle client, we might go out and we might do photos in a coffee shop or something, or if we're doing a dog trainer, then it'd be outside with jumps and things like that. And as I said before, I was trying to bring a client's work and interest into the shoot, because it helps their potential clients to know from just a photo what they'd be like to work with.
Yeah. Okay. I was going to ask a question about props then, but I can't remember what it was, so don't worry, that might come back to me. But yeah, I wanted to just kind of move on to, okay, so we've got all of these great photos. We've got some great photos now, because we've done our hair, we've done our makeup, we've had some really fun photos taken. How would you recommend that people use these photos in marketing and business? Where can you use them? What can you do with them?
Okay, well, again, everybody's different, but there's lots of kind of constants. So the obvious ones are kind of setting up your profile photo on LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, wherever you are. And I always suggest that people try to be consistent with their photos. So try and always use the same photo on each platform, so that if somebody goes from one platform to the other, they'll recognize you, because it's kind of, from a marketing perspective, it makes sense that you're recognizable, and to an extent your face is your brand.
That's really good advice, and I'm terrible for it, because I'm just like, I'm going to use that one there and that one there and that one there, and then it's like, and then I've got different hair in each one of them, and it's like, oh.
Yeah, but it kind of makes sense. And then the other thing is if you've got 3 or 4 that you really like, switch them all over, obviously all at the same time, because again, that kind of helps renew interest. People will notice that you've changed your photo, and it's another good kind of free way of marketing, if you like. People will notice that you've changed your photo, and that kind of always opens up conversations. So those are the kind of the social media platforms. Then on your website, kind of you can use them all over the place. If you're selling online, we would probably take photos that you can use for promotions and product launches. You'll remember from your shoot, because I know you do loads of stuff online. We'd take photos of you pointing into space and stuff that kind of helps you to, you can put text and stuff in there, and it's just great for multi-purpose, really. You can use it for all sorts of things.
Yeah, that was a really good idea. I was really chuffed with that, because I've got all of these photos now where I'm kind of like, oh, look at that down there and look at that over there, and it's like,
yeah,
yeah,
exactly. And it makes sense. You can use them for anything. You can take them once and then use them multiple times.
Yeah, absolutely. Cool. Okay, so that's really good. Loads of really good advice there that I have actually scribbled down a few notes to follow. Like go and change my photos so that I look like the same person all over the place. That's a good one. So okay, if somebody's looking for a great photographer, apart from obviously coming to you because there's only so much of you to go around, how can someone choose a good photographer? What should they look for?
Well, I wouldn't say coming to me, actually. I'd love it if people did come to me, but I wouldn't say come to me, because the first thing if you're looking for a great photographer, the first thing that you need to look for is look at the work and make sure it gels with what you're after. And do they take good photos? You know, there's some photographers there that don't necessarily take good photos, or they might not be the sort of photos that you want. So that's the first thing. And don't think because somebody's taken one sort of photos, they can automatically take a different type, because every photographer has a style. You know, I'm not trying to make us into be kind of proper artists, as it were, but we do have styles. Every photographer has a style, and they'll be comfortable working in their style. So don't hire them and then try and make them do something different, because you won't necessarily get the results that you want. But also look at what they specialize in. There's lots of photographers out there, and I get it all the time, that people think that because you're a photographer you can photograph anything, and to an extent that's true, but a good wedding photographer is going to be great at photographing weddings, but they won't necessarily be good at photographing food. Right. Like an architectural photographer would be great at photographing buildings, but not necessarily landscapes. I've chosen to deeply specialize in people because that's what I'm really good at, and what I really enjoy doing. So make sure that kind of what you're asking them to do is what they normally do. Otherwise, you may not be really happy with the results. And then thirdly, and most importantly, is make sure that you're comfortable with them, because and meet them before you book them if you can, because the results make a big difference to how you feel in the shoot, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
If you're not feeling confident in what they're doing, or you don't feel comfortable with them, that it's going to show in your face, and then it will show in your photos, and then people will pick up on that in the photos, and it's not going to be brilliant it's not going to have the results that you want them to have.
Okay, that's really good advice, and I think that's something that you've alluded to a few times. But you're very modest, and it's like that's one of your big strengths, is that you are so good at putting people at ease and making them feel comfortable, and also having fun. And that's why I wouldn't go to anyone else to have my photos taken, because But like you said, I mean, what you said is right. I kind of jokingly said, everyone should go to you, but yeah, not everybody might. You might not gel with everybody, and that's kind of the most important thing.
Yeah. Absolutely, yeah, and I'm not gonna be everybody's cup of tea, which is why I would definitely not say come to me, because I might not be right.
No.
If I am, great, but if I'm not, then find somebody else.
Cool. Okay, so we're getting to the end of the time that we've got. So I'm just going to ask you for your for a takeaway. I'm trying to do a takeaway for each podcast now, so I'm getting more and more organised. What's your biggest tip for having personal branding photos taken? What would, if people only took one thing away from this podcast, what would you want it to be?
Okay, what I would say, and I'm going to repeat myself again now, I think. Unfortunately, I'm really sorry. This kind of John's got his soapbox out.
No, get your soapbox out.
What I would say is personal branding quite often creates a real step change in people's business. So if you're going to do it properly. Look for photographers who specialize in personal branding. Have a chat with them. Make sure that you feel comfortable with them, and then book them and do it, because it's really worthwhile.
Cool. Thank you. I've found that as well. I haven't really unveiled the new photographs that you've taken for me yet, because I've had a bazillion and one other things going on. But I'm really looking forward to using them all, because they're just great fun, really. So
I'm looking forward to seeing them being used.
Yeah. I kind of have started using them, but they're not like out there yet, because kind of buried in things. So But right, okay, so that's all been that's been really cool. Thank you. So finally, where can everyone find out more about you and what you do?
Well, if they go to my website, which is rather imaginatively johnclearyphotography.co.uk.
Cool, and I will put the URL in the show notes for people. So
fab.
So they can do that. That's been so cool. Thank you so much, John, for coming on the show. I've really enjoyed talking to you, and it's just been really. I think people will find it a bit of an eye opener because people just think, oh, photography, I'll just get a photo and blah blah blah. But actually, there's
why not?
No, so
as long as most people are doing that, my clients will be quite happy.
Yes, it's perfect. Cool. So that's it. No, I really appreciate it. I've enjoyed this. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next week, Joe is going to be back, so Joe fans will be happy about that. Don't know what we're talking about because I don't even know what date it is right now. And if you liked this podcast, please go to iTunes or wherever you get your podcast from and subscribe because it helps us climb the rankings and it makes us feel good. And leave us a review because, again, ego, but also, it helps people find us and learn more about marketing and business. Or if reviews aren't your thing, then please share the podcast. Send them to vickyfraser.com/podcast, and particularly send them to this podcast because it's all about photography and all things personal branding, and it's bloody interesting and useful, basically. So thanks again, John. Thank you, listeners, and I'll be back same time next week.
Like what you've just heard? Tell your colleagues, tell your friends, send them to www.businessforsuperheroes.com/podcast.